this layer is the one that kind of gradually goes from air to silicon, right? And so the geometry, the profile of that is exactly, that'll kind of dictate like what function it is, how it goes from air to silicon, right? So then that's kind of the standard thing. When we first did the experiments, those guys made the structures, and then we measured the optical properties and modeled it and said, you know, here's what we would expect, and it was basically what they were seeing was better than you would expect. The process that we use to make these patterns kind of leaves a surface layer on those cones, right? And the X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy is able to tell us that looking at the binding energies, that in fact that material is, you know, it's not kind of standard silicon oxide, it's not silicon, but in fact it's a material that people have seen before when you etch silicon in this way, right? So that you can make this material. Now, the optical properties of that coating are kind of between silicon and air. And so this is what you were saying. So it's not just the geometry, but now I've got a material coating it with different properties, and that helps even more, right? These nanostructures, we're able to get the reflection. So remember a flat surface, right? If we just have a flat surface, you get about 30%, right? And then the kind of the industry standard is I'll coat with some silicon nitride. And remember, the idea there is you have reflections from that top of the layer, right? And you get reflections from here, and they interfere to give you less reflection. When you do that, if you plot the reflectance versus wavelength, those coatings tend to have a minimum, right? And usually, you know, you tune the thickness, so the minimum's kind of right where the peak of the solar spectrum is. But you get higher reflection in other regions. And so that's kind of a standard coating. Now the problem is, people know how you can do lots of fancy things and put multiple coatings on to make this flatter.
Yep.
But it's expensive, right? So when you're actually trying to make solar panels that generate solar electricity, you want to, you know, what matters is the dollar per kilowatt hour.